What's up, guys? It's Coach Gaglione here, and this is another edition of our Climb to 185 series. I'm your host, Coach Gaglione, and I've been involved with powerlifting and strength coaching for over 18 years. So today I'm going to give you an example of what a peaking workout might look like. I haven't kind of decided if I'm going to do doubles or singles, but basically I'm about 12 weeks out for my next competition, but I am going to do a little bit of a tune-up meet. So technically, I will be competing for the third time in a structure called competition on April, but this is more of a kind of just a practice run for me. So that could be something that you can kind of utilize to make sure that you are getting more skillful in terms of listening to commands and just the pressures of not being able to lift on your own time, not being able to lift to your special song, etc., because it's different than when you have the comfort of doing it in your own gym without judges, without a crowd, and you can kind of craft the circumstances to your liking. You can't worry about if you had a bad night of sleep, a bad night of eating, whatever the case may be. So I think there's something to doing a competition, actually kind of putting yourself on the line and challenging yourself in that way. So anyways, not to say that gym lifts aren't impressive, but there's kind of that extra element of getting on a platform, putting yourself out there, and I think that everyone should challenge themselves if they want to get stronger and if they want to just also improve their mental strength as well. So in my competition in particular, we're going to be using pounds plates, so I'm going to start to kind of switch over to using pounds exclusively. We're going to work up to a top set. I'm going to show you guys how I utilize reverse bands. Some people call it the future method. So the idea is that the band's going to assist you in the bottom range of motion where you're most vulnerable, but they're going to kind of let go toward the top. So it's not like the perfect setup. Ideally, I'd want the kind of the bands to not kind of pull back on an angle a little bit. So that's also going to kind of assist keeping it closer. So not ideal, but kind of work with what you have sometimes as long as your setup's consistent. But I've kind of found that I can maybe get a 10% bump in these. So I think that's like a pretty good. Any more than that gets kind of crazy. So like if your best curl is 100 pounds and you can do 150 reverse bands, it's probably too aggressive. But I've done not quite close to 200 pounds reverse bands. And my best competition curl is 180 pounds. I believe my best training curl is 176 pounds. So, I'm getting like 15 to 20 pounds out of this. So, on average, so that's a decent bump. But it's not too far extreme. It's not like I'm doing 250 with the reverse band. So, I'm able to kind of feel the weight at the top, and that's good for your nervous system. Also good for your confidence. So that's kind of the difference between reverse bands and something like a chain. You actually get to load the weight on the bar that you want to do, and I think that's good for like psychological reasons as well. So I really like these for peaking. I don't like to use these all the time, and even though this is kind of far out from my meet, again, since I'm doing the tune-up meet, I'm going to kind of take a couple of sets of 1 to 2. So I'm going to do a top set of 1 to 2, and then maybe a couple sets of 1 to 2 with the reverse bands, maybe a heavy hold, and then I'll kind of call it a day. So that would be kind of like an example of a peaking workout where it's very intense. You're going to do exercises that allow you to overload. But the reason I like the reverse bands versus like a block curl, like a partial range of motion curl, or even some people who do like cheat curls or power curls, it's going to be more specific. So I'm going to be in my contest positions and still have to have my butt on the wall and stuff like that. So if you don't have reverse bands, you could do things like power curls. You could do things like cheat curls. Some people are also can do more on like a seated curl. But again, I think going through the full range of motion with an overloading exercise is more ideal. So whether that be using some sort of chain or reverse bands, I think those could be good for overloading exercises. I like to use chains more for technical work and speed work and strength speed, sometimes to overload a bit for the maximal overload. I like using reverse bands for all lifts. So I'm still kind of, again, this isn't the perfect setup again, but I've used this with success at least the one time. So if you do have access to that, another thing that you can do if you have a home gym is kind of set up a pull-up bar above your curl stations. That might be something I might kind of tinker with in the future, so we can kind of have a reverse band station over there on the other rack. But anyways, I'm going to stop yapping. And the other thing I want to kind of talk about is my attire. So I'm wearing my contest shoes, contest equipment. I'm also experimenting again because I'm 12 weeks out from my actual competition. I'm using a soft belt today. You may not even be able to see it, just to kind of keep my back a little bit warm. I did some heavy deadlifts recently, so I'm a little bit sore, but I'm using my Reebok Power shoes that helps me kind of grip the ground. I'm going to use wrist wraps to kind of stabilize my wrist. And I'm wearing a singlet today, so again, if I'm going to get judged in the competition, I'm a little bit more honest with myself if my tush is on the bench and stuff. Sometimes even with shorts or baggy clothes, you can't always see that. So you want to make sure your back's in contact with the wall, your tush is in contact with the wall, and kind of, again, practicing those commands. The more specific you can kind of get leading into the meet, especially that last like 4 to 6 weeks out, that's when it's really time. You want to get as specific as possible, wearing your contest equipment, practicing commands, and actually doing things to a contest standard. So thank you guys for watching, and let's check out the workout. Always like to start with kind of the empty bar, and then I'm going to use my Ivanko collars. That'll make the starting weight 30 pounds, and again, I'm going to use pounds today. We're still going to use calibrated plates, but I wanted to start kind of getting used to using pounds plates for the 365 strong meet that I'm doing. Throw some weight on. So I'm going to practice some of my actual warm-ups for the competition. So I'll probably go 80 pounds, then go like 115, and then kind of smaller jumps after that. So that's kind of another thing for like peaking workouts, is actually think about like how you're going to warm up in a competition. So whether it be powerlifting or strict curl, typically what you'll find is you may have, each flight can be like 30 to 40 minutes, again, depending on the actual contest and things of that nature and how big the flight is before you. But generally you'll have time for about 5 warm-ups. Again, for strict curl, you may not even need that many. But generally 5 warm-ups, whether it be kind of a powerlifting meet or a strict curl meet. So I like to plan for 5 warm-ups. You could always omit 1 or 2 if you need to. I'm also kind of experimenting with different wrist wraps today. Again, I'm 12 weeks out from my actual competition. If this was like a true peaking situation, then you would want to just not mess with anything, including your gear, including your diet. But I'm going to start to experiment a little bit. So far, it didn't seem like the soft belt hindered my setup. I actually am wearing it backwards, but it's giving me a little bit of support for my lower back. So I'm going to start to kind of dial in, even with this 80-pound weight. I'm going to chalk up. I'm going to work on doing commands, and so I'm going to start with doing 2 halted reps, and then again I may do some singles at the end. So again, get really specific to practice contest conditions. So it's going to be a curl, down, and rack. Visualize your setup, visualize your execution of the lift, and visualize your success during the lift. Feeling pretty good. The wraps feel good. Soft belt didn't seem in the way, so again, even though it's 80 pounds, it's nice to kind of start off on a high note, and again, knock on wood, no pain in my forearm. So if you guys have been kind of watching along, I've been kind of dealing with that injury. So I'm pretty happy overall. So we're going to go to 115 next. Actually, with the collars, it'll be 120. 115, plus the collars is 120. And from there, we'll start to make smaller jumps. But again, it's good to have a game plan. It's good to actually practice your game plan. These are all, they sound like kind of obvious things, but they kind of, a lot of times people don't kind of think about it. So actually write down your warm-ups. If you're not as familiar with the barbell math, it's not even a bad idea to actually write down like what you're going to put on the bar. So write down, I'm going to put a 25 on each side. I'm going to put a 45 on each side. I'm going to put a 45 and a 10. So the more you can kind of take the guesswork out of it on game day, the more you can just kind of spend your mental bandwidth on the actual lifting. That's what's really important about having a handler, having a coach, even something like strict curl where there's a lot less an element of like danger of like, so when I was really big and I was squatting like 900 plus pounds, making sure that I was safe was always kind of a factor. I'm not really kind of worried about. So that's like one of the, I guess, positives about strict curl. Just from a mental standpoint, yeah, sure, you could hurt yourself like anything else, but the worst thing that happens, you put the weight down, maybe strain something, or or worse, but you're not going to actually have weight kind of crushing you like in a bench press or a squat, where it could be very the element of danger is much more pronounced there. So we're going to take 115 we're going to work up to do some halted doubles. Once I feel like I'm at like an RPE 9 or like 1 rep in reserve, I'll probably start doing singles. Let's check out the next set. All right, we're going to chunk up, wrap up, and then we're going to take 115 for a double. Another thing, I don't like the thumb loops in the way, and depending on the federation, you can't have the thumb loops touching the bar, so I like to actually wrap my wrists kind of backwards, so I'll use the right one for my left hand and vice versa, but just kind of like, a minor thing. Strict curl, I think, is still kind of figuring their standards out, but they're a little bit further behind powerlifting in that sense, although maybe that's a good thing because I feel like there's more uniformity, but anyways, that's a topic for another day. But most of the federations are kind of adopting similar rule sets. RPS, we're kind of following suit with that. So 365 strong, 100% raw. Strict curl nation, most people are starting to go for a bar and have a similar rule set. ISCA seems to, be a little bit of like a lone wolf, at least in America in that sense, and the UCCCA. So hopefully we'll see some more uniformity, but RPS will be using the Gopher bar as the primary bar, and then it'll always be kind of listed on the website what barbell the meet director is using, and that's what we'll be using for the Strong Arm Strict Curl, which should be a week from the taping of this video. So here's 120 pounds, 115 plus the collars, 120 pounds for a double. So I can probably pause the second rep a little longer, but as long as I get that first rep to pause long enough to have a start command, I'm pretty happy with that. So we're going to start to make smaller jumps, increase my rest period. So I'm just going to keep doing doubles for now. So here we'll take a 20-pound jump and go up to 140. Then go like 150 would probably be like my last warm up for the contest. 150, 155, kind of that range. So typically I won't take more than a 10-pound jump for like my heavier sets, so usually 5 to 10 pounds, or 2.5 to 5 kilos. And that'll be kind of like, because again, the percentage of a strict curl, the percentage of like 5 pounds is a much bigger percentage than it would be for like a squat, a bench, or a deadlift. So anyways, this is 140 pounds. We're going to do a double, and then depending on how that feels, I may drop to singles, I may do one more double, and then do a few singles. All right, so 140 pounds. This will be double, probably last double for the day. But again, I'll see how it feels, so I'm going to wrap up. So far, I'm kind of feeling good with everything. I don't think the soft belt is really doing much in terms of performance, but it is making me kind of feel a little bit better. So I may or may not use this in competition, but for now, and with the tighter wrist wraps, slightly longer wrist wraps, I'm still kind of like undecided. But so far it feels good. I still feel like I have enough mobility, but I have a lot more support with these longer wrist wraps. So I'm gonna give this a try. Looking 40 pounds. Second to last warm up for a double. that was a good haul to the leg. But I think I'm going to like to do some singles now. Very happy with that. Feeling good. I'm going to check my bar path. Good to check your technique as you're warming up for your workouts. And I'm going to go into some singles. All right, so next warm up will be 150 pounds. So I'll probably do 3 singles and 2 to 3 singles with reverse bands. Again, depending on how I feel. But so far I'm feeling pretty good. I am a little bit undercovered. Again, did a fundraiser charity event last week. Didn't get a lot of sleep. Been running around. Had a little date night with a day date with the wife. We did a cooking class at Big Fish Grill. We had some good salmon, some swordfish, good stuff. So I'm still kind of also staying on the plan. So one thing I'll kind of show you. So one of the things I've been doing, because my diet's been meat, fruit, and roots. So occasionally I'll have like a potato here and there or potato products, but mostly, so for some of my heavier sessions, I've been kind of experimenting with just some orange juice. Again, not to say, but like, so I'm just trying to, again, have more health in mind versus just pure weight loss. But my weight has come down a little bit. I'm probably going to weigh in as like a light 308. I'll probably weigh in like 276 because I'm going to weigh in the morning of my tune-up contest, and then I'll kind of go in the 275 class for my meet in April, and then eventually with the attempt of dropping down, so do a meet at 242, do a meet at 220, and then I'm not sure if I'll go back to 198 or not, because I'm trying to like avoid actually extreme weight cutting and water cutting, and actually just be like under the weight class as I'm getting older, family man, trying to do less extreme things. But this is one thing that I've been utilizing to kind of stay on my diet, but still have my performance in mind for my primary curl sessions. All right, we got 150 pounds on the bar. This will be my last warm-up for this competition, and hopefully maybe like a little bit more for the meet in April, but for the tune-up meet. So this is like a last warm-up weight. And then again, something like 160 would be right now like an opening attempt for me, something I could double, and something I have doubled recently. Again, you're going to be, 90 to 93% for an opener is kind of a good rule of thumb. If you're a little bit more aggressive for a strict curl meet, 95, but something you could double or triple, something you have doubled or tripled. So this is 150 pounds. I'm going to take a single and try to be reasonable with the commands. Feeling pretty good. I'm going to go up to 160, then go from there. So I'm going to take 160 pounds and start to increase the rest periods a little bit. If you notice, before I do my sets, I take a moment to gather myself. I take a moment to kind of mentally prepare. And what I'm basically doing is I'm kind of mentally walking myself through the lift before I actually do the lift. So there's a lot of anecdote, but also research for you evidence-based people that you get benefit from imagery training, whether that be during the actual session or potentially on other sessions. So one of the things that I learned many years ago from Vinny DiCenzo, and he's one of our legends. Vinny DiCenzo, I believe the first and only man to bench 600 pounds raw in 3 different weight classes, and also 900 pounds equipped. He always talked about the importance of mental training, and everyone kind of agrees that your mentality is a high percentage of your success, but how many people actually work on it, how many hours a week. So I always think it's important to prioritize some sort of imagery or mental training. I learned a lot from a sports psychologist back in Long Island. We actually have a product, if you guys are interested in that. I forget what it's called, but I just think it might just be called like mental training for powerlifting. Or, anyways, I was having some performance anxiety and performance like issues from like mentality, overcoming like some injuries and stuff, and using that mental imagery protocol. I believe I was able to get from, I think when I started like the mental training, I was maybe having issues with like even like low 500s, certainly under 600 pound squats, and I was able to get back to over 700 pounds in just knee wraps. So that's very good for me. My best all-time knee wrap squat was 750. And again, I've always been an equipped lifter, so my best squat is 900 pounds in competition. I've done like a partial squat, but I did squat 1,000 pounds in training. I have squatted, first and only known man to squat 800 pounds in 6 weight classes. And getting back to like overcoming like some injuries and setbacks and mental adversity, that was super helpful for me. So don't like discount something you haven't tried, but basically if you want some more information on the mental training, I have some resources on our YouTube. Maybe I'll make one for Strict Curl as well, but you can do guided imagery where like a sports psychologist, or you can kind of record yourself kind of walking you through the lift. So basically you would kind of visualize, walk yourself going through the setup, think about actually hearing the commands, hearing the crowd, visualize and actually see yourself completing the lift, and then visualize your success during the lift. You want to from start to finish. It could be from like the chalk ball all the way till you see the lights. And the more vivid and the clear and colorful those images will be, they'll be more ingrained in your brain, and you're basically practicing your lift. And you're ingraining those you're ingraining those neural pathways in your brain, which is making you more likely to be successful in those techniques. So from a motor skill standpoint, it's not necessarily going to add pounds to your strength. It's not going to necessarily make your muscles contract harder, but they will be more efficient, because ultimately your brain governs everything. Everything starts in between your ears. So the more you can kind of train your brain to be more efficient, the more likely you'll have success on and off the platform. All right, so we got 160 pounds on the bar. My lovely wife is going to be giving me commands, doing a single repetition. So again, for peaking workouts, it's important to practice those commands, because you want to, even if you're pausing or whatever, you want to get used to actually reacting to verbal signals. So you want to link up the auditory with the kinesthetic, with the physical. So we're going to get some commands. There's going to be a start command, down command, and a rack command. So this is 160 pounds. This is like around an opening attempt. If you want to watch me from the side too, you could like just so you know. But all right. So I'm also going to make sure my glutes and my back stays in contact with the wall.
Go. Down.
It was okay. It was a little sloppy, but.
I mean, it's hard to see from the side.
Okay. All right, a little sloppy, so I might just take a small increase there, and then we're going to do reverse bands. All right, so we go up to 167.5, and then we'll do reverse bands after that. Wasn't my cleanest lift, but I'm going to try to get a little bit more oomph on this one and take a little bit more time. Singles like north of 170, but I want to take something above 95% at least. My so this will actually be a PR without a belt. Take this for a single, and then we'll move on. All right, this is 167 and a half. This will be my last straight weight single. We'll try to move this a little bit better.
Curl. Down. Rack.
All right, a little harder than I wanted, but felt good. I don't know if it fucking 5. So I'm using the pounds because that's what we're. So I'm gonna take the change plates off. I'm gonna do a 25. That's where'd you hold on? Where's that?
I just took it off of here.
Okay.
But it doesn't go there.
So we're gonna do 25, 2.5 collar. I'll take the ones. Thank you.
Oh, there's ways to hold. Yeah,
I don't
in
know
a
that,
box.
but- Oh, what? Yeah, they're here.
Oh, you brought it.
Yep. Alright, so we have the reverse bands on. So over the collar. Actually, let me see if, yeah, let's try this. Let's see how that goes. So maybe a little bit, yeah, we'll go all the way here. This will be my final attempt, and then I'm going to do a heavy hold. The straight weight singles were a little bit more of a struggle than I'd like, but again, I'm definitely under recovered from travel, lack of sleep, so I'm taking that into consideration. So we'll hit this for 1 to 2 reps, do a heavy hold, and then we'll kind of shut it down for this workout. This will be a good gauge to see where my top end strength is at.
Curl. Down. Back.
Okay, I'm going to do a heavy pick. Didn't feel too bad, but I can tell I'm not used to holding that weight. So we're going to take the reverse bands off, just practice the unrack, and then we'll move on. We're going to do a heavy hold with 182 and a half. So a little bit less than my goal for April, but just want to get used to taking 180 out of the rack. All right, here's a heavy hold, 182 and a half. Another good peaking strategy, whether you're doing a powerlifting meet or a strict pro meet, just get some heavy weight in your hands, practice your setup with heavier loads. You could do anywhere from like 100 to 120% is good. So like for me, I could probably go up to 200 pounds ish, which would be like a 10, around 10, a little more than a 10% overload. More than 20% gets probably, again, not necessary, but I've seen people do it. Jen Thompson's a good example. She's like a pretty routine 315 bencher. She'll do heavy holds. She's worked up to as much as I've seen, 495, which again, I think is, probably the juice isn't worth the squeeze at that point, but again, just kind of shows that that's something where if her body, her skeleton can handle holding 500 pounds, taking out 315 is going to feel like a breeze. So definitely a good nervous system trick, especially for a peaking phase. Highly recommend. That was one thing too when I was doing a lot of my heaviest equipped squats, and then when I did go back to raw here and there, when I was squatting 900 pounds in a suit, taking out 700 pounds didn't feel like anything, even if I was completely raw. So that is something to consider. Heavy holds, heavy picks. You can utilize that kind of concept for any lift. And you don't want to change anything just because it's only a heavy hold. You want to approach it the exact same way. So I'm locking in my grip. I'm getting nice and deep into the bar, wedging my hands in. Taking my breath. Re-rack. So I still got some work to do with my grip strength for sure, but I got 12 weeks to do so. So one thing that I'm going to do right now, I'm going to log my results. As always, I'm a turnkey coach. It's really important that you write down your weights, especially like as you do them, so you don't forget. It's really important that you do that. So I'm going to log my weights in turnkey coach. I'm going to track my data. So obviously the next time I kind of go through this training phase, training cycle, I can kind of see my improvements, see what went wrong, what went right. So that's going to be the next step. And then after I do that, we're going to kind of go into the next kind of phase. So this will be kind of a good kind of tune-up situation. Next week we'll kind of again do the tune-up meet, and then from there I'll have about 10 weeks or so of like training. Again, I'm going to do multiple kind of 3-week waves. It's going to be kind of the plan, and then the final competition. What I'm aiming for is on April 26th. If you guys enjoyed the video, please subscribe. If you want to check out the links below to support our program. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon.